Mr Rudd, thanks for your time.
Good evening, Brian. Good to see you.
Mr Rudd, is it unusual for a society to know the result of an election before finding out the date of an election?
Well, historically, Brian, that would be a little out of the ordinary, but I hasten to add that's not the position we're in this country at the moment.
Have you seen the polls?
I have, and they're frankly encouraging, Brian, but we're against a very, very tough opponent indeed.
Yeah.
We've very seldom been elected into office since the war. This is not going to be easy.
Yeah, and the PM hasn't even called the election.
He hasn't
yet,
even called an election.
Which is my point.
Well,
here,
it's my point too, Brian. We cannot assume anything. We are in a tough stoush here.
Mr Rudd, do you know anyone that's actually going to vote for the government?
I do, Brian. I speak to people all the time. I spoke to a man this morning who's going to vote for the government.
Who was that?
George Bush.
Well, George Bush doesn't get a vote, though.
Not going to worry George very much, Brian. He's 100% behind John Howard. And he didn't just tell me that. He sprayed that about a fair bit.
Isn't Mr Howard in enough trouble already?
Brian, the point I'm making is we are not assuming anything. This is a tough fight.
Okay. Now, on another matter, you're fence-sitting on the Tasmanian pulp mill.
Well, can I stop you there, Brian? We are not fence-sitting on that issue.
Okay, well, what's your position?
Our position is very, very clear. I've made our position very clear.
What is that position?
Our position, Brian, is one of clarity.
Well, are you in favour of the pulp mill or are you against it?
Yes.
Well, which one?
All of us, Brian. I mean, it's not just me. Everybody in this party is very, very clear on that issue. We are all in a position of clarity.
All right, Mr Rudd, on another matter, you've spoken about your meeting with President Bush this morning.
Yes, indeed.
What actually happened?
Well, can I first say that I have the highest regard and value greatly the relationship between the US and Australia. It is probably the central relationship in this country, certainly in regional... I mean, I grew up in Queensland. The Coral Sea, Brian, is about that far from where I grew up. I need no convincing about the
Did you have a good talk?
Yes, we had a very good talk. Our countries are friends, Brian, and as with old friends, we can speak frankly.
I think I understand that. Did you discuss the Iraq War,
We did, Brian, and we discussed it very, very frankly
indeed. And so what did you say?
I didn't say anything, Brian. I listened, and George spoke very, very frankly. That's what I'm trying to describe.
Did you say anything?
Oh, eventually, Brian, yes. But can I say that I value that very, very central relationship? That is the most important alliance we've got.
But Mr Rudd, what did you actually say?
I said that, Brian.
Very frankly?
Very, very frank. I made no bones about it, Brian. I spoke very openly.
Did he give you a lift home?
Yeah, dropped me at the end of the street, Brian. And
it's very nice of him.
Oh, he's a top bloke, yeah.
Excellent. Mr Rudd, thanks for your time.